So, like, you just when you talked about Johnson, like, I've only heard good things about him. I'm from, like being
Right.
from the north, and I was told by YouTube that if you actually go down and talk to the people in Dallas, they'll say exactly what you just said, which is he is notoriously evil.
Absolutely. In 61, 62, the Texas Attorney General had him under investigations for several murders revolving around his earlier election career. There's no statute of limitations on murder.
So you're saying to be elected office, he was willing to commit murder,
Yeah, kill off the competition.
kill off the competition.
Yeah. We also know that he had his own personal hitman. So that gives him ties to the mob.
A personal hitman like Malcolm, or one more with it.
The hitman's name was Malcolm Wallace.
Wallace. Okay.
Yeah. And Johnson actually had Malcolm kill his very own sister.
Okay. Yeah, I read about that story and I was wondering how accurate that was.
Yeah.
Because
Johnson had his own sister killed by Malcolm Wallace.
because she was talking.
She was a bit of a party girl. She would get drunk. She would talk. And he felt that she was a liability.
Now, did anybody else know her? I mean, like, sometimes people say she's a talker, and like these people are not talkers.
Well,
they're not
honestly,
drinkers.
That generation, they're gone now, so I don't know.
Okay.
But Lyndon Johnson had several mistresses throughout the country. His favorite one was right here in Dallas, and she is the only one that actually gave him a son. I don't know a whole lot about the son, other than
He looks exactly like her, like him.
I heard that he was killed. I don't know if it was disease or an accident or whatever. But Johnson never acknowledged.
And as far as like when you were growing up, did you know of girls that he might have been around with, or?
I was only 11 at that time.
Okay.
So my family would not have told me any of the seedy stuff.
Okay.
But a few nights before Kennedy came to Texas, Johnson took his favorite mistress to a cocktail party. And they were very wealthy, very powerful men. And it's in her own book that she saw Johnson, H.L. Hunt, and she names a whole bunch of the other wealthy, powerful men go into another room, close the door, and come back out. Johnson picked up a drink, walked over to her with a smirk on his face, and said, "Well, this is the last weekend I have to answer that son of a bitch."
And like when you watch the relationship between Johnson and Kennedy, in the public eye, even at the conventions right before it, Kennedy joked around with them like very favorably, and like smiles on their faces. They looked like buddies.
Yeah.
Even up to the last.
Kennedy knew how to work around them. Now, Bobby Kennedy and Johnson hated each other to the point where it was difficult for them to be civil to each other in public venues.
Meanwhile, and it seemed like Jackie and Lyndon seemed like they're buddies.
No. In fact, he tried, even on the, right after the assassination, he tried to hug one of the children one day.
Okay.
And she pulled that child back and she said, "Don't you touch my child."
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that one.
Oh no. Johnson and the Kennedys did not like each other at all. And I do believe Johnson is the head of the snake when it comes to the assassination.
Well, I have a little trouble with that one because I think it would be way above Johnson. Like I think the operational aspect he wouldn't know how to do.
Well,
I don't think he would have enough people.
oh yeah.
Like I mean, he has people, but I don't like to me.
Well, let me put it chronologically for you.
Yeah.
Kennedy had made a lot of enemies in a very short amount of time. He understood the positive aspects of having a Federal Reserve. It would help us to become a financial power of the world. He saw the benefits of that. But he also saw that unless our feet were planted deeply into gold, that one day our money would only be worth what the Federal Reserve told us it was worth. That happened under Nixon.
Yeah.
So when Kennedy was trying to put checks and balances to make sure our feet were into the gold, it made the feds mad, it made Wall Street mad. Lots of money and power there. He and Bobby had campaigned that they were going to shut the mob down. That made the mob very nervous. As soon as they were in the White House, Bobby started going after the mob. But he was getting mostly the smaller mob bosses. Well, during the campaign, Joe Kennedy Sr., having already ties to the mob, because he was a bootlegger, the big difference with him was that he was a businessman. He was only into bootlegging to gather the money he thought he needed to create his empire and to raise that large family of his. Once Prohibition was over, he basically walked away from the mob. But you can't totally walk away from the mob because they help bring you up. So Joe Sr. went to Chicago and met with Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa was one of the most powerful men in the country. He controlled the dock workers on the East Coast, West Coast, and Gulf Coast, and the truckers throughout the United States.
Which might be actually more money.
That's right.
The transit.
I mean, he really had power here. Joe went to him and said, "You help me get my boy in the White House, and I'll get my boys to stand down." Well, isn't that a nice win-win? And the mob would possibly have some extra pull in the White House? Oh yeah, we'll help you get your boy in the White House. Once they're in the White House, Joe Sr. goes and tells the boys, "Y'all have got to stand down. This is the deal I made. You need to stand down and leave them alone. And the boys basically said, Dad, you kind of lost your mind. We didn't make that deal. We're keeping our promise to the people. Joe Sr. has a major stroke right after that. Leaves him wheelchair bound and barely able to speak a word. So he's no longer a threat to the mob, but the boys, they've got big targets on their backs. And Bobby starts going after the big mob bosses. He was deporting them and sending them to prison. So you got that group.
Yeah, then you got the mafia, right?
The mafia, the mob.
And on top of that, in foreign affairs, that was also the time that like Italy was going through its huge the Corleone families, and then those
See, that was all part of what
tens
was
of
going
thousands
on
of
over here in the United States. So then, Kennedy has a meeting with Allen Dulles, head of CIA. Dulles tells him about the plans to invade Cuba and kill Castro, which was sanctioned by the Eisenhower
which would
administration.
actually make it more Nixon, because Eisenhower had a stroke himself or a heart attack.
But
So
he sanctioned the plan,
right.
So, Dulles tells Kennedy what the plans are. And Kennedy tells him, don't you pull that trigger. I will not support this. We have too much work to do in that country before we try anything like that. He said, we have to know that the people really want their country back and are willing to stand up and fight for it. Also, we need to make sure they have their leadership in line and ready to take over the government, because we are not leaving a country like that in chaos. We have much too much work to do before you can even attempt something like that. Dulles' only goal was to kill Castro. He thought he could force this young Kennedy's hand. He pulled the trigger. Then he tried the invasion. We lost good men on the beaches. They got bogged down. They called for airstrike backup. And Kennedy got on the phone and said, I told you I wouldn't support this. Get your people out. So basically, Kennedy saved Castro's butt.
Oh yeah.
Allen Dulles gets fired immediately. And Kennedy, now realizing how much autonomy that the CIA has, he vows to restructure the CIA, put in accountability. Oh my gosh, you can't have accountability in government now, can you? So, the CIA is furious with Kennedy. They don't want to have any part of it. So that's power. Lots of it. Then you have who was it? Johnson, the mob,